I was on a podcast here in London recently where the host really pressed me on one question. How does somebody break out of this rat race where if somebody, let's assume they're not making a lot of money, they're living small, but even though they're living small, they don't have much money or any money left over at the end of the month. Maybe they have to live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they have to live on their credit cards. Maybe they have to live on payday loans in order to get by. How does this person break out of the system? How does this person get out of this rat race? And how can they become wealthy? Because it is possible. And the way that I outlined it is there are 7 steps. If you follow these steps one by one, you can break out of this system and become wealthy regardless of where you are today in your finances. Even if you're living paycheck to paycheck, even if you feel like you're not making enough money, even if you feel like you have no idea what to do with your money, there are strategies that you can follow. Yes, there are strategies because there's a system to this that if you do these steps, step by step, you will have the tools you need in order to become wealthy. But here's the key. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next month. It's probably not going to happen in 1 year either. This is a long-term wealth game, but if you stick with these strategies, you will be able to completely turn your life around in the next few years, and you will be able to achieve that real wealth for yourself. You won't have to worry about how you're going to make your next month's bills. You're not going to have to worry so much about how you're going to eat next week. You're going to actually have that cushion so you can live financially free. And it starts with number 1, understanding, realizing, and believing that you have a choice. Now, this one might not seem that important, but this one is so important because if you do not achieve this basic mindset trait, you will never be able to do anything else. You have to believe that you can achieve and change this. Because if you don't believe that you can do it, I guarantee you will not be able to do it. You have to believe and actually want to get out of the system. Now, nobody wants to be broke. Nobody wants to struggle with money. Nobody wants to wonder about how they're going to make the next month's payments. But a lot of people don't want to do the work or make the sacrifices or go through the systems to actually make the change. And so if you don't want to be in that financial situation, you have to also understand and believe and accept that you can break out of the system, that you have a choice, that the choice is in your hands, and that means you have to start taking responsibility. And this is hard because that means you can no longer blame your boss. You can no longer blame the government. You can no longer blame the banks. You can no longer blame your landlord. You can no longer blame everybody else. The only person you can blame from now on is you. For the situation that you're in, you have to blame you. No matter how crappy that situation is, no matter how unreasonable this might seem, no matter how weird this might seem, if you start taking that responsibility for yourself, you're going to start changing the things that you do. And if you start changing the things that you do, especially with your money, you're going to end up in a completely different financial situation. And if you don't believe me, try it. Try this with me for the next 30 days. Do not blame anybody else except yourself for anything that happens wrong in your life, for anything that happens difficultly in your life. Blame yourself only. Try it for 30 days and see what happens with it. But if you believe that you can make a choice, that's where you can move on to number 2. The second thing that you have to do is not give up. And this is an emotional trait that you have to master. The first thing that we talked about was the mindset. Now we're talking about the emotional side, and after this, we're going to get into the practical side. But on this emotional side, you have to not give up. Because what happens, and I've seen this so many times, I've talked about it on this channel too, is a lot of times people will get into a situation and they'll say, you know what, life is short. You know what, I don't know how much time I have. You know what, might as well be happy. You know what, it's just money. You know what, I don't want to wait until I'm old to be able to enjoy my money. We create this excuse to just go out and do whatever we want with our money and not care about money anymore. But the reality is, this is an emotional part. You have to care about money. You're already in financial crap right now. And if you're in financial crap right now, why would you want to stop in the middle of the crap? Keep going until you get out. Because what happens to a lot of people is they're in this crap. They don't see a way out. You feel like you're struggling with money. You feel like everything sucks with money. You can't figure out how to get out. So what do? You know what? I'm just going to go finance a $10,000 vacation to the Bahamas. I'm going to go on this crazy trip. I'm going to go buy some nice things. I'm going to go finance a nice car because I don't know how I'm going to get out. Might as well just enjoy my life however I can best. The problem with that is these things are going to catch up to you. And now instead of being into a knee-high pile of crap, now you're going to end up in a shoulder-high pile of crap. Eventually, you're not going to be able to breathe, and it will get worse because all these things do catch up to you. Money does matter. As much as people want to talk about how it doesn't matter, the reality is money does matter. And the reason why it matters is because it costs money to eat. And it also costs money to feed other people. You need money in order to be able to not just survive, but also to be able to thrive. You need money to be able to take care of other people. You need money to be able to buy the thing for your wife that you want. You need money to take care of your husband. You need money to buy your college for your kids. You need money to pay for their vacation. You need money to pay for your savings. You need money to buy a home. It costs money to survive. We go to work every single day to get a paycheck. You're going to work to get paid. And so this is where it is important for you to understand money does matter. This doesn't mean you got to be obsessed with this idea of money and just be this money hungry, money greedy, just money thirsty person. But it means you have to understand that money is important and you can change this, but you do not want to give up. Because if you're in the crap right now, it can be very hard for you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you're in the crap, that is not the time to stop. Do not stop in the crap. Keep working to get out. Do not stop where you are right now. The third thing that you need to do, and points 3 through 7 are practical things that you need to start doing with your money. Number 1 is your mindset. Number 2 is the emotions. Number 3 is the practical side of now you got to cut back on your spending. And this one gets difficult because you might feel like you're already living small. I'm already financing a small car. I'm already living in a small apartment. I'm already not really eating out. I'm already not really going on vacations. But I can guarantee you, there are ways for you to find an additional $50 to $100 a month by cutting back on some things. Maybe you stop eating out at certain restaurants. Maybe you buy different foods at the grocery store. Maybe you do need to find a different apartment. Maybe you got to sell your car and downsize. If you have a financed car, if you have a financed BMW, if you have a car that takes premium gas, I guarantee you there are ways for you to downsize. There's always a way for you to cut back on your spending. And you do not want to get into this game of just penny pinching for the rest of your life. Because at the end of the day, a penny saved is just a penny. But that is the first practical step to actually breaking out of this financial system, breaking out of this financial mess, is you have to control the spending. Because the fastest way, the most accessible way for you to have more money is just to not let your money leave your bank account. And that means you got to start safeguarding this money that's in your account, which means you got to stop letting this money leave your account. That means you got to stop spending your money. And this is where you got to remember, every time you spend $1, somebody else is making your dollar. And so what I want you to do right now is stop making everybody else rich and save that money for yourself. Now, the goal isn't to save it forever, but you got to start with this. You got to start by finding some extra cash. You got to make some money and spend less than what you bring in. Because if you cannot do that, you will never ever become wealthy. I don't care how much money you're making, because what will happen is you're going to make more money and then you're going to end up spending more money and then have a bigger financial liability, have bigger financial problems, and end up in a bigger financial hole. So you have to start this here is you got to control the spending. There are ways for you to cut back, maybe negotiate some of your bills lower, maybe cancel some of your memberships, maybe stop spending money on things. Figure out ways that you can cut back on spending. Every single person can find a way to find at least $50 to $100 a month that you no longer have to spend. The fourth thing that you need to do is you got to take this money that you're no longer spending and need to put it to work. Now, the way that you put it to work is going to depend on where you are in your financial goal. Maybe you have no savings, no investments, nothing. Then you got to start by saving your first couple $1,000s. If you already got some savings, but you got credit card debt, then you got to work to pay down your credit card debt as fast as possible. You got to pay down the high interest debts. If you don't have any credit card debts and you have a little bit of savings, but you have no investments, that means you got to start putting your money to work in your investments. See, the way that you put your money to work is going to depend on where you are. If you have credit card debt, you shouldn't be worrying about investing your money into the stock market, right? The stock market is going to get you a 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, maybe 10% return on your money. That is the goal. But you can also lose your money in the stock market, right? It's not guaranteed. Your credit card is costing you 15, 16, 17, 20, 25% a year in interest. So if you might be able to get a 10% return in the stock market, but you're going to pay 25% on your credit card, you're going to get a better return by paying off your credit card 1 year early. So the way that you put your money to work now, the way that you invest your money is going to depend on where you are. Maybe you don't have any credit card debt. Maybe you have some savings, but you don't know how to invest. Maybe you got to invest this money in your own education. Maybe that means buying books. Maybe that means buying classes. Maybe that means buying coaching. There's a lot of different ways that you can invest this money. And I'm not going to do a full deep dive of how to invest your money in this video because I have many videos on my channel where I talk about that. And we also have a free ebook at Briefs Media where we go over how to build wealth as an investor. That's the title of the ebook, which goes over things like how do you spend your money, how do you invest your money, what are the different ways that you can invest your money, how do you generate cash flow, how do you see appreciation, how do you protect your assets. This is a very comprehensive ebook that you can read for free. If you want to download a copy of this ebook and start reading for free, I got the link for you down in the description below, or you go to briefs.co/ebook. But this is where now what you have to remember is you are not spending all of your money because now you're saving some money and you want to take this money and put it to work. Meaning you want to put it to work to start building your wealth. Maybe that means paying down your debt. Maybe that means building some savings. Maybe that means now you're going to go out and grow this money. You got to do all three, but the way that you do it is going to depend on where you are in your financial situation. So now if you're following the steps, you started by conquering the mindset. Then you started by conquering your emotional side of money. Then you started by conquering the way you spend your money. Then you conquered the investing side of how you put your money to work once you start having some extra cash. Then this is where I want you to work on actually earning more money. Because what you'll see is if you feel like you're not making enough money, there's only so much that you can cut back. Maybe you can find an additional $100 a month, maybe an additional $200 a month, maybe an additional $500 a month, maybe depending on if you're making a little bit more, $1,000 a month. But there's always going to be a limit to how much you can cut back. But there's no limit to how much you can earn. And this is where now, at this stage, I want you to start putting in the focus on earning more money. But the reason why you're earning more money is not so you can go out and have a nicer car, a bigger home, better vacations, more fancy stuff. The reason I want you to earn more money now is so you have more money to put to work, whether that's paying down your credit card debt, whether that's building your savings or investing your money. Because now the goal is to build your wealth. Remember, every time you spend $1, you're making somebody else rich. You're giving that dollar to somebody else. I want you to use your dollars to make yourself rich first. So now the question is, how do you earn more money? And this is, again, going to depend on who you are and where you are. If you got a job and you have the opportunity to work some extra hours, use that opportunity to earn some extra money. If you can take on a second job, use that opportunity to take on a second job. If you start a side hustle, use this opportunity to start a side hustle. If you want to start a business, use this opportunity to start a business. There's no limit to the different ways that you can earn more money, but you got to actually put in the work. And the interesting thing is when I talk about this, I get a lot of interesting feedback of people saying, oh, you just want people to work and work and work. And the reality is you're never going to get anywhere in life without working. If you are a lazy person, I suggest you just leave this video now because you can't get anywhere you want without actually putting in some effort, without actually making some sacrifice and putting in the work. Because now the reason why you're working more isn't just so you can have a nicer car. Because see, what happens to so many people is they're working to make other people rich. And when most people hear that, they think, oh, that's because you're working for somebody else. You're making your boss rich. But that's not what I mean. I mean, you're working to make somebody else rich because all you're doing is you're working to buy nice things. It's not because you're working at a company. Everybody works in a company. I have my own company, but guess what? I'm an employee in my own company. I get a salary out of it. Now, if you want to start your own business, fine. But what I'm trying to say is if you take that salary that you're earning and you use this just to make everybody else rich by going out and shopping every time you get paid, you're never going to have the ability to build wealth because all of your money is immediately going out. So now, as you're working to earn more money, the question is, why are you working to earn more money? You're working to earn more money. That way you have more money to actually build your wealth. You have more money to put to work. That way you can become wealthy. How do you earn more money? Maybe you get a second job, you work more hours at your job, you get a side hustle, you start a business. Number 6 is you need to turn your Netflix time into learning time. This one is difficult because now you've done all the practical things right with your money. You're working hard, you're spending less, you're putting your money to work, you're working to earn more money. And now you come home to finally relax and watch some TV and you just want to chill. The problem here is if every night you're spending 2 hours just chilling, well, you're going to be able to grow a whole lot slower than if you use that time to learn. And what I want you to remember here is the goal isn't to work yourself to death for the rest of your life. But when a sacrifice needs to be made, you got to be willing to make that sacrifice. And that's the thing that will really differentiate somebody who becomes successful versus somebody who doesn't, is the person who is willing to make the sacrifice when it needs to be made will see the results that somebody who doesn't or won't doesn't see. And this is where now, if you really want to accelerate your path, you want to now turn your Netflix time into learning time. The average American is watching almost 3 hours of TV a day. A day. If you turn the Netflix time into reading time, you start reading books, or you start watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts on things like how do you build a business, how do you increase your income, how do you grow in your career, how do you get a new career, how do you invest your money, how do you put your money to work, how do you pay down your debt, you're going to be in a completely different mindset in 6 months, and you're going to be in a completely different financial situation in 2 years. 2 years might seem like a long time, but building wealth is a lifetime game. I call it a decade of sacrifice. And the reason why I call it a decade of sacrifice is because if you put in the work for 10 years, which is a long time, you are going to be in a completely different financial situation where now you can use the money that your money is making to live your life. But most people don't want to put in the work for a decade. But this is where now I want you to remember, some people will be able to achieve this success. Some people won't be willing to do it. If you want to achieve the success, you got to do what you got to do in order to get there. And that means you have to work to use your money smartly, and you got to also use your time smartly. And one of the things that you can do is convert the Netflix time into learning time. That is the best ROI that you can get. Not because you're going to save $15 a month, but because you're going to save those 2 to 3 hours a day, where now you can use that time to read books, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos. If you do that, you're going to be in a completely different situation in 6 months. You're going to think completely differently in 6 months, and you're going to be in a completely different financial situation in 2 years. And this brings us to number 7, which is use your new money. Now, if you remember, how did we get here? Number 1 is you got to change the way you think with your mindset. Number 2 is you got to master the emotional side of your money. Number 3 is you got to master the spending side of your money. Number 4 is you got to put the money to work. Number 5 is you got to work to earn more money. Number 6, you have to master what you do with your time. And number 7, this is where you get to start to finally use the fruits of your labor. Because what you'll start to see happen is you will first change the way you think. Then as you change the way you think, you start to change the way you spend your money, and you'll start to see some extra cash, and then you start to invest that money. Then what you'll see is, wow, this investing thing is kind of cool. I wish I had more money to invest. You work to earn more money. And then as you work to earn more money, you're going to keep working to change your mindset, and now you realize, wow, if I had more knowledge, I could earn more money as well. And this is where now you start investing more money and time into learning. As you spend more money and time learning, you find more ways to earn. Then, as you earn more, you put more money towards your investments. And then, as you start putting more money towards your investments, one day you're going to wake up and realize, wow, I actually have savings. I've paid down my high interest debts. I have a whole new income stream from my investments. And now that you have started to build this wealth, now you can start to change the way that you live your life as well. Because the goal isn't to live small forever. I want you to have all the nice things. I want you to have the nice car, the nice home, the nice vacations. The problem is I don't want you to be the person that's going into debt to fund these things. I don't want you to spend all of your money to have a nice vacation. I want you to be able to afford these things without worrying about the price. And if you can start making money through your money, right? This is money that your money is making. It's not money that you're working hard to generate. When you're working in somebody else's business, you're working hard to earn that money. When you're working to earn money from your own business, you're working hard to earn that money. But when the money comes from your investments that are sitting there just paying you every month or every few months or every year, that's not money you're working hard to earn. You worked hard to buy the investments, but then your investments are working hard to pay you. Now when you start getting this new income, now you can start making the decision of what do you want to do. Do you want to reinvest that money, or do you want to start using that money to start living a little bit bigger? And that decision is going to be up to you. Maybe if you still got some more gas in you, you keep putting that money to work. That way you can accelerate this compounding game and keep growing your income and wealth even faster. If now you say, you know what, I think this is the time I want to get a new car. I want my investments to pay for my car. Well, now you have a way to do that. But the key is you have to go through this step by step. You got to be willing to make the sacrifices, keep putting in the hard work, because it is hard, especially when you don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't want to stop when you're in the crap. That's when you want to keep going. That way you can get out of the crap. And remember, money does matter, but you have to be strategic with the way that you're going to use and systemize your money, because if you have a system, then you'll have a process to build wealth. But you got to remember, this is not a 6-month thing. This is a 10-year game plan. We're talking about a decade of sacrifice. But if you're willing to do it for a decade, you're going to end up in a whole new different place financially. You can set yourself up for the rest of your life, and you can even start setting up your kids for the rest of their lives, because now you're building a wealthy mindset. And for those of you who say, well, I want to start enjoying my life now, well, that decade is going to go by whether you like it or you don't, whether you're being financially smart or you're not. And I'd rather you see that decade go by and be in a better situation financially than stay broke and then continue to be broke a decade from now as well. Now, again, if you want to learn more about how do you build wealth and put this money to work, we have a free ebook at Briefs Media. I got the link for you down in the description. We have other videos on my channel where we go over how do you actually invest your money as well. If you are 35 years old and you want to retire when you turn 65, that means you have 30 working years ahead of you to build your financial foundation for retirement. Now, if you don't feel like you've advanced far enough towards your financial freedom planning or your retirement planning, I want you to watch this video until the end, because not only will you understand what you can